Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, with a quick response to a question. You got me at a really good time. I got a question on the last video that I did, and it's a question that comes up every now and then about why are magicians obsessed with free thought of selections? Why are they obsessed with that when a good force can work just as well, much more direct? It's a good question. I have an answer to it for myself, why I obsess over it. I think the typical reason why magicians obsess over that is because of the way magicians think. And that is that begs the question, right? Because spectators don't think like magicians. Magicians think about method. Spectators don't necessarily think directly on method. Which means that a very convincing good force is as good as any kind of free and fair selection. So why not? Why not just do forces? Well, two things. There's the magician side of it, and let me give a little bit of weight to that. I'm not a huge follower of Pig Cake and his channel. It's a very you know Pig Cake. He's got a very crass, kind of profane sort of channel, right, that deals with magic. The topics he discusses and the conclusions he makes are worth listening to, for sure, and worth considering, and the things that he teaches are very valuable. Nonetheless, it's an acquired taste. Okay, and I'm not a huge follower, but I have seen a couple of really good videos. One recently went up there just within the last couple days, where he looks at a Banachek performance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. And if you know Joe Rogan's podcast, I'm not a frequent listener. I'm aware of what it is. He's a skeptic. Also very crass and very direct, and kind of talks in plain terms. Not necessarily always making sense, but certainly talking in plain terms. And Banachek is a skeptic as well. Did a lot of work with James Randi back in the day, particularly outing spiritualists. So he's on the show a while back. This is kind of older. And he does some of his staple tricks. And it's pretty tough to watch. I actually saw this back when it happened, and the fact that he brought it up, I was kind of surprised it came up just now. But Rogan calls out everything. I mean, like, there's hardly anything that Banachek does in the performance, and he does it the way he always does it, where Rogan doesn't give him a hard time on the method, and hits the method like kind of dead on directly. I think we need to give spectators more credit than we do sometimes. And I know that sounds strange coming from me, a person who relies on fairly fundamental kinds of methods. But I think there is something in there about knowing your audience. And I think that when you say pick a card, or you say stop, or you say stop, or you say reach out and touch a card, right? Whenever you do those randomized selection kinds of acts, I think you have to be prepared for the fact that yes, indeed, there is a goodly percentage of spectators that do understand that you are hoodwinking them. Okay, so there is that. Let's not pretend like 100% of spectators are entirely fooled by that. Okay, there's that side of it. Now, I don't give that side of it as much weight. Now, there is an answer to this, by the way. So, and Pig Cake goes into this in his video, and he's right about it, that Banachek could have done some other material that was better targeting for Rogan, knowing that Rogan doesn't go along with anything, and he's going to just interrupt and change his mind and make things hard. There's a whole kind of magic for hecklers, and people that are critical. And he didn't do that, and that's the consequence of it. So there's that. And that kind of answers the question. If you ask someone to just freely name a card, well, you've eliminated a whole amount of issue there. And now you've gotten into a whole other set of methods that completely gets rid of the control aspect of it in terms of decision making. So that's the answer for most magicians. Now, I don't put as much weight on that. It's a good percentage of people. It's not a majority of people, but I can tell you that for family and friends that I have, I don't force on them very much. I don't, because they bust on me. They know me too well. They're going to interrupt. They're going to get in the way. They're going to think critically about things. I cannot put them off balance with my personality. It's not possible. So therefore, forcing is not a great solution for them, right? So that's part of that. Now, the real thing I want to say, though, there's another side of it. This is what I'm getting at. I think there is something, there's a liability in saying pick a card that has nothing to do with method, or tell me when to stop, or reach out and touch a card, or just go ahead and cut the deck. There is, or even just take one out, any one you want. There's a liability in that because it's so ultra typical of a card trick. Just the word card trick it bothers people. Hey, let me show you a card trick, right? Or even, you don't even have to word it that way. Here, let me show you something. Oh, a card trick. You're already dealing with that. You already have that kind of perception in the way of the performance. And when you go to say, pick a card, or tell me when to stop, or take one, this random selection kind of business, you are being extremely typical to card magic. But if I say, go ahead and think of any card, any one that comes to mind. Now I've done something, right? Even though it may not matter whatsoever that they have a free choice. I could have just as easily done this and have them make a true free selection and not have to force on them. I could have done that and I would have gotten the same outcome. I would have gotten a card that I didn't know they were going to pick because it doesn't really matter to the trick. But just having them name one, and then even just having them name one and then finding it and then doing something with that card. Or even better, if I want to make sure that I don't know what the identity is, or at least imply that, I can say, go ahead and think of a card, look through the deck and take it out. Now I'm in a free selection situation where the implication is that I don't know the card. But what has happened is I've made them think. They've had thoughtful engagement. Pick a card is not thoughtful engagement. All they're thinking about is put my hand out, pinch and grab something, or touch, or say stop. When I say name any card that comes to your mind, now we have thoughtful engagement. Now they're thinking, oh shoot, what kind of cards are in there? Oh, well, you got, I know there's red and black ones. What are the suits? Oh, well, hearts. I know hearts. I know hearts. And wait, there's numbers and it's, Queen of Hearts. Right? And they'll come up with something. It's thoughtful engagement. They actually have to think about making a decision. And that's way better, I think, of a starting position than pick a card. And that's why I obsess over it. That's why I think it's way better if you can in your magic to have them name a card, because it's just better engagement. Now, there are effects that are just better suited to forces. And in those cases, have at it. You don't need to find a way to eliminate a force from a really, really good effect. If the effect is really good on its own through the utilization of a force, there's no need to improve it by getting rid of the force and putting in some other kind of layer of free choice. If it already suffices with the force, I'm not saying you're improving the trick. You may, in fact, not be improving the trick by removing the force from it. The force might be the thing that makes it absolutely direct, easy to understand, and hard-hitting. And in that case, absolutely keep the force in there, or the free selection, or whatever the case may be, the randomized selection. I'm just saying I think it's helpful in situations where especially in situations where you don't need to force and you're not forcing and they really are making a choice. I think it's way better from the participant's perspective to be told, here, take the cards, look through them, and take out a card you're thinking of. Think of any card you want, remove it. I think it's far more engaging I think it's far more engaging. So that's why I advocate for it. If you have been wondering about this, there's a few things to chew on there. I have found in my Magic that I hardly ever have anyone pick a card. I don't like to do it. And I have found that when I say pick a card or touch a card, I usually get that automatic, oh, okay, response. It's a card trick. Well, what kind of card trick is this? It's just like any other card trick I've ever seen, because they all start with pick a card, any card. If I can get away from that, I feel my Magic's much better, right? So anyway, there's that. Anyway, to answer your question, that's why I think magicians obsess over it. But that is why I obsess over it. It's for a different reason. I think it's just a better experience to have them think of something and say it freely out loud, even though it doesn't necessarily have to raise the possibility of more complex method. I don't think that's all there is to it. I think there's an experiential element. Good luck with that. Happy magicking.